Hi guys, I'm Parvez, and in this course we're going to learn about React Native. So we will learn that how you can install React Native using Expo CLI and also React Native CLI. And after that we will go through the basic and fundamental concepts of React Native. Now first of all, what is React Native? So React Native is an open source framework for building mobile applications. Now it's created by Facebook, and you can use React Native for building Android and iOS mobile applications. Now if you see React Native documentation, you can see that with React Native website, or we can say that learn once, write anywhere. Now if you come down, you can see that create native apps for Android and iOS using React. And React Native combines the best parts of native development with React, and you can use React Native today in your existing Android and iOS projects, or you can create a whole new app from scratch. Now if you're familiar with the JavaScript, if you know that there are different options that you can use for application development. For example, you can use Java, you can use Kotlin, and also we have Flutter. Now if you're familiar with the JavaScript, then it's a good choice that you can use React Native because it uses JavaScript. And you can see that React Native lets you create truly native apps and doesn't compromise your user experience. It provides a core set of platform agnostic native component like view, text and image. Now there are different built-in components that you can use. We will talk about that in the later part of the course. And also if you come down in the fast refresh, you can see your changes as soon as you save. Now with the power of JavaScript, React Native lets you iterate at lightning speed. No more waiting for native builds to finish. Save, see and repeat. Also now React Native is being used in thousands of apps, but it's likely you have already used it in one of these apps like Facebook or Messenger or Instagram. Now let's talk about the installation process. Now there are two ways that you can install React Native. So the first way is Expo CLI, and also we have another way, that's React Native CLI. Now if you see Expo CLI, if you're new to mobile development, then the easiest way to get started is with Expo CLI. Expo is a set of tools built around React Native, and while it has many features, the most relevant feature for us right now is that it can get you writing a React Native app within a minute. So using React Native, using Expo CLI, we can create our React Native application in a minute. And also it's telling that if you're already familiar with the mobile development, then it's good to use React Native CLI. So you can see that we have Expo CLI and we have React Native CLI, and they have a complete instruction for this. And also we'll talk about the difference between Expo CLI and also React Native CLI after the installation. Now you may want to use React Native CLI. It requires Xcode or Android Studio to get started. So if you're working with the Expo CLI, then there will be no need of Android Studio or Xcode. But if you're using React Native CLI, then it's telling that you may want to use React. It requires Xcode or Android Studio to get started. If you already have one of these tools installed, you should be able to get app and running within a few minutes. And so now the first we will go through the React Native CLI installation, and after that we will go through Expo CLI. Now as it's telling that you should have Android Studio or Xcode, and you should already install that before installing of the React Native CLI. So you can see that they have instructions for this. And now the best way is that you can just download and install Android Studio. So install Android Studio, and you can install Android SDK platform, Android virtual devices, and also if you're not already using Hyper-V performance, then you can install that also. So Now I'm not going to do the installation of the Android Studio. So I've already installed Android Studio, and I don't want to install that again. Okay, now let's just install our React Native CLI. So now after installation of the Android Studio, you need to just add the part of the Android Studio SDK in your environmental variable. And after doing that, now you can just use this command. So creating a new application. React Native has a built-in command line interface which you can use to generate a new project. You can access it without installing anything globally using npx, which ships with Node.js. Now let's create a new React Native project called Awesome Project. Now I have already installed Visual Studio Code. We will use Visual Studio Code. Now let me just install that in here. Okay, now let me just copy this command. You can change the project name, or you can just leave it whatever. You can just add your project name, whatever you want. So for example, I'm going to just use it Awesome Project by default, but you can change it with your project name. Now after that, hit enter, and now we will wait for the installation process, and it will take some time to be installed. Alright guys, now our React Native application has been installed, and you can see that they have instructions. Now we want to run our this application. Now if you see in here, and you can see that we have our Awesome project, and you can see that these are the folders structures that we have in here. And the important one is the app.js. We will talk about these files in the later part of the video. Now the important point is you can see that we have Android and iOS folders. Now the Android is now in here. These are the native codes for the Android, for example Java or Kotlin, and we have iOS, and it's in here we have the Swift code. Now remember these two folders, because when we have installed using Expose CLI, we will not see these two folders. Now this will be the main and the big difference between the React Native CLI and also Expose CLI. Now let's just run our application. So in here we can just say cd awesome project, and after that we can just use this. It will start Metro Bundler, and after that it will run our Android application. So now let me just paste this in here, and now I will wait, and for the first time it will take some time, and we will wait for this. Okay, I have quitted my application because I have forgot to talk about emulator. Now before running of our project, we need to create a virtual emulator. Now there are two ways that you can do. The first way is that you can just open your Android Studio, and from the AVD manager you can install a virtual emulator. Now the second way is using Genymotion. Now we want to use Genymotion for this. The first thing is that you need to go to the genymotion.com, and after that install Genymotion. After installation of the Genymotion, so I have already installed. You can see that this is my Genymotion. So yeah, after that you need to create a device, and you can just use from here, and you can just create your device. So I have already so you can see that in here you can install that. I've already created my device, and this is custom phone, and from here you can run your device. So right now my device is running, and you can see that I can stop this. So now the important point is that you need to just go to the Genymotion settings, and from here you need to go to the ADB, and if you see by default it will be this, use Genymotion Android tools. You need to change that to the use custom Android SDK tools, and make sure that this should be tick mark. So after that you can run your emulator, your device, Genymotion device, and you can see that this is my Genymotion. Now we can run our application. So let me just copy this, and let me just come in here, npx React Native run Android, and it will run our Metro Bundler, and after that it will run our Android. So now I'm waiting for this. Let me just wait in here a few seconds. And now you can see that this is our Metro bundler, and now we are waiting for this. So this is the now we should wait. This is the JS server. Now you can see that in here we are receiving info starting JS server, info installing the app, and now you can see that this is our, you can see that to reload we can press R. Now the first time it will do like this, but and for the second run there will be no problem, and it will be, now you can see that it's installing the debug app, build successful, and now you can see our application. Loading. So it's right now in the loading mode. And now guys, you can see this is our React Native application. Welcome to React, and this is the default page for the React Native. So you can see, and this is the React Native. You can bring change to the app.js, for example. Now this so this is the place that we will work on this, and so let me just remove this, and I want it should be just a simple row function like this. And so in here you can see I did this screen, we can edit this now. So from here I can just remove this like this. And now if I save, and okay, now you can see that we don't have that text in here. Now in this text we want to just write welcome to React Native course, and you can see welcome to React Native course. So like this you can work with the React Native CLI. We will talk about the Expo CLI. So this was the installation process of the React Native CLI, that you can, like this, you can create your React Native application. And the best thing is that you can see that we can access to the Android and iOS codes, and we can edit these codes in here. Alright guys, now let's install our React Native using Expo CLI. So now before this we have learned that how you can install React Native using the React Native CLI. Now I have forgot one thing, that you need to install Node.js before for example installing React Native CLI or React Native Expo. So before that you can just install or download Node.js, and you can install that according to your operating system. And after that now so we want to use Expo CLI for the installation. Now if you're using npm, you can install first you need to install Expo CLI globally using npm install-g Expo CLI, or if you're using ER you can use this command. So let's just copy this, and so now we need to wait for this. Alright guys, now Expo CLI has been installed. After that we need to just init our project, so we can just use expo init awesome project, and we can just add this in here. So expo init, you can give it whatever the name of the project that you want, and right now I'm going to just use awesome project, so like this. So now I should wait for this. and you can see we have our awesome project folder. And now you need to choose the template, so you can see we can use blank TypeScript tabs. So for this we are going to just use the blank. So I can just use this, and let me just blank, and after that hit enter. Now I should wait for this. Now it will download some project files. Alright guys, now we have our project in here. Now you can see our awesome project, and this is our expo. Now you can see that we don't have the folders that we had in the React Native CLI, the Android and also iOS folders. So you can see that we don't have those folders in here, and that's the biggest difference between the Expo CLI and also React Native CLI. But the good thing is this, that you can create your project in using Expo CLI, and after that you can eject that to the React Native CLI, and you'll access to Android and iOS folders. So now let's just run our application. So there are different ways that you can run this. So first let me just change my project, and I can change this to the awesome project. So let me change this. So cd awesome project, and now we can start our Metro bundler. So you can use npm start or expo start, and there's no problem. So let me just use npm start, and now I'm waiting for this. So it will take a little bit. Now for the running, there are different ways that you can use. For example, the first way is that you can download Expo Go from the Play Store or App Store, and after that you can scan the QR code. So now let me just wait for this. Alright guys, now you can see that this is our Metro bundler, and you can see that in here there are different options that you can run. So the first was that from Play Store or App Store, and after that you can just scan this QR code, and you can run your project without any virtual emulator. Now the second way is that you can just connect your mobile using USB cable, and after that you can just click on run on Android device or emulator, and it will be run. Now the third way is that we are going to use, that is using a virtual emulator on our computer. Now there are two options that you can use. The first option is that you can install Android Studio Virtual Emulator, so you can just go to the AVD Manager and you can install that. The second way is using Genymotion, that we want to use Genymotions for this. So I've already, so you can see that now it's running. You can just click on run on Android or iOS and it will be run. Now first you need to install Genymotion, and after that you can just run Genymotion from here, and after that you can just say run Android device or emulator, or you can just, for example, if you have iOS, you can just say run on iOS simulator. So now let me just wait for this, or I can just okay, let me just close this and let me run this again. So now we should wait for this, and our project will be run on Genymotion. Now one important issue that you need to note, you need to change the settings of Genymotion and the EDB. You can just change this to, so by default it's use Genymotion Android tools. You can change this to use custom Android SDK tools. So now let's just wait for this, and for the first time it will take a little bit, so we should wait for this. So guys, now you can see that this is our application, and you can see that open app.js to start working on your app. So now let's just open our app.js, and in here we want to bring change. So you can see that there are different folders that we have expo shared. These folders are related to the expo. We have assets, and here we can add the icons. So you can see that there are already some icons in here. We have node modules, that these are the installed packages for the React Native, and we have package lock JSON or package.json. So the important file is app.js that we will work on this. So now let me just remove this, and in here I can just say hello React Native, welcome to course, and let's just save this, and you can see it's refreshing, and hello React Native and welcome to course. So like this you can work with the Expo CLI. So we have learned that how you can install React Native CLI and also Expo CLI. Alright guys, now in this part we're going to talk about creating components. Basically we want to talk about creating functional components. Now in the previous part we have learned that how you can install React Native using React Native CLI and also Expo CLI. So for the teaching purposes we are going to use Expo CLI, and this is my simple application that I have a simple text in here. Now let's just start from the top. So we have opened our app.js file. Now if you see in here we have status bar, and if you see that this is the status bar that we have in here, and if you remove this from here, and this status bar is related to the Expo CLI, to the Expo. Now if I refresh this, you will see that I don't have, now you can see that I don't have that status bar in here. And after that you can see that this is my React, and these are the style sheet, text, and view from React Native. So right now we are not going to talk about the style sheet in here, and basically I'm going to remove this style from here, and also I want to remove this style from this section. Okay, now you can see that in here we have basically a component. Now let's talk about the components. So components are the building blocks of a React application. For example, you want to create an application that you will have, for example, a login page, registration page, or registration screen, and a profile screen. Now for everyone, for example, for the login you can create a separate component. For the registration you can create a separate components. You can create as much as components that you want. And here if you see in the app.js we have a component, and basically there are two types of components that you can use. We have functional components and we have class components. In this part we want to talk about the functional components. Now if you see in here we have a function app, and functional components are basically JavaScript functions, and in here in a component we need to return a JSX, and you can see that in here we have a view. Now view is related to the React Native. You can see that in here we have imported the view, and it's a container. If you are familiar with the React.js or with HTML, for example, we can give div. Now div is like a container, and in here in React Native view is a container. And after that we have text. Now it's a built-in component. View is a built-in component in React Native, and text is a built-in component. So in the text you can just give a simple text in here that we have already added hello React Native in here. Now let's create another component in here. For example, let me just create a new folder, and I'm going to just call it components, and we want to create a functional component, and I'm going to just create a new file, and I can just say hello.js. okay, so first we need to import React, so we can just import React from React, And after that, as I've already said, that functional components are basically just regular JavaScript functions, and I can just create function and I can just call it function hello. And in here we need to just return JSX, and after that let me just import also I can just import a view and also text from React Native. And in here first we need to create a view, and in the view we want to create a text, and in the text we can just say hello from functional component. Okay, now we have created our this component. Now we need to export this, so we can just say export default, and you need to give the name of your component, and in my case it's hello. Now we have created our component. We want to add this component in our app.js, so I'm going to remove this text hello React Native, and in here I need to import this, so I can just say import hello from and dot components, and we can just use our hello, and in here you can simply add the hello, so we can just say hello like this. Okay, we can add our component. So now you can just save, and if you see you can see that we have hello from functional component, and this is the text that we have in our hello.js. So for example, if you add another text in here, we can just say this is second text, this is the second text, and if you see you can see we have this is the second text in here. Now you can change this to a row function if you want. You can just say const hello, and we want to just create a simple row function like this, and if you see the result will be the same and there is no problem. So you can create as much as components that you can that you want. You can just create it. Okay guys, now in this part we want to learn that how you can style your component, or how you can give some design for your React Native elements. So for right now you can see that we have a functional component hello.js, and we have added this in the app.js. Let me close this app.js. Now we have basically just two text in here. There are two types of styles that you can give in React Native. We have inline style, and also we have another type of style. Now so let me just first we need to just import the style sheet in here. So or right now let me just leave it like this. Okay, so for example I want to give I want to change the font size of this hello from functional component, so we can just give an inline style in here, and I can just give it style, and in here we need to use font size, and I want to give it 25. Now if you see, now you can see that we have hello from functional component, and you can see that the size is changed. We can give a color, so let me just give a color, and I want to give a red color, and if you see, so we have a red color in here. Also we can give a padding, so we can just say padding, and I want to give it 50. So now we can see that we have a 50 padding in here. Now also you can use another style. For example, you can separate this style from here. Now for that the first thing is that you need to import style sheet. So from import style sheet, so let me just import it in here, style sheet from React Native. Now in here we can create our style, so I can just say const styles, and we can say style sheet dot create, and in here you can create your style. For example, I want to give some style for this text. First you need to give the name, so I want it should be text style like this, I want to change the font size, and the font size should be 30. I want to give a font color, it should be green, and also I want to give a padding, so I can just say padding, and the padding for example 20, like this. Okay, so right now if you save the file, you can see that there's no change for this text, because we need to add our this style and our this text. So in here we can just say style, and we can use this styles in here, so styles, and after that the name of the style, so it's text style, so we can just say dot text style. Okay, so now if I save this, you can see that we have a nice style for this text. So like this you can give a style for your React Native components. In this part, we're going to learn about creating of class components. So we have learned that how you can create functional components. Now, class components are basically JavaScript classes that extends from the React component. So now let's just create, I'm going to close this hello.js, and in here I want to create a new file, and I can just say hello class.js. So first we need to import React, and also we need to import component, so component from React, and also we need to import view and text from React Native. Now we want to create our class component. So as I've already said that it's basically JavaScript ES6 classes, so we can just say class, and after that you need to give the name of the component. So for example, I want to give it hello class, and after that we want to extend this class from this component, from the React component. So we can just we can just add it like this. Okay, and after that we need to add render function, and in the render function we need to return some JSX. So we can just say return, and we need to create a view container in here, and we can just add a text for right now, and I can just say hello from class component. Now after creating of the class component, we need to export this, and we can just say export default, and you can give the name of the component, so it's hello class. Now we can import this hello class in our app.js. So I'm going to import my open my app.js, and in here I can just say import hello class from components, and it is hello class, like this. Okay, now in here we can just say hello class. So now if I save this, you can see that we have hello from class component. You can add the same styles for the class component. Now let me just show you. For example, you can add an inline style in here. I can just say style, so we can change the font size to 30. We can give a color, so for example yellow, and also we can add a padding of 20. So now if I save this, okay, now you can see that we have hello from class component. Also you can add your style in here. Now let me just create another text in here, and I can just say text, this is my second text, and now let's import style sheet in here, so style sheet from React Native, and now we can create our const styles style sheet dot create, and now we need to give a name for the style, and I can just give it text style. So I want to change the font size, so font size, it should be for example 23, I can give a color, so brown, and also I can give a padding. If you want, you can just add it, so 15. Now we need to add this style in our text, so we can just say style, and you need to give the style sheet name, so it's styles dot text style. So now you can see that it's changed. So like this you can work with the class component and React Native. Alright guys, now in this part we're going to talk about the props, and we'll learn that how you can use props in functional component and also class component. So using props we can pass some data from one component to another component. So props are short for the properties, and you can use it for example, if you want to send some data from your parent class to the child class, you can use props. For example, if you see in here, we have two components. Let me just remove this class component for right now, and we have just hello. It's a functional component. If I open this, so now you can see that this is my hello component. Now I want to send some data or some information from the app.js to the hello.js. Now in here, for example, I can just add a name, and I want to send this information or this value from app.js to the hello.js. Okay, now in the hello.js, if you see in here, we have our functional component. In here you need to add props as an argument in your function component, like this, props, not this dot props, props. Okay, now using this props you can access to this name. Now let me just remove this text from here. I don't need this. Now in here, if I say props dot name, and let me just add this in a text, so text, and we can just say props dot name. So now if you see in here, now let me just wait for this. I think we have the text, but it is out of the screen. So let me just add this text style in here. So I can just say style, and I can say styles dot text style. Okay, now you can see that we have this information from here to the hello.js component. Okay, like this. Now you can add multiple data. So for example, I can just add last name, and let me just add the last name. And now in the hello.js, in here we can just let me just add this in here. So we can say props.name, and also we can also, or we can use backticks in here. Let me just say name is, so name is, so props.name, last name, we can say props dot last name. So now if you see, my name is Parvez and last name is Farouk. So like this you can access to you can send some data from one component to another component. Now this was with the class component. If you have functional component, how you can do that? So if you see in here, I have a hello class in here, and it's a class component. Now so what I want to do is to, in the app.js, let me just remove this functional component, and I want to add my hello class in here. Okay, If you see in here, I have some text in here from the previous video. Now I can remove this for right now because I don't need to this. And in my app.js, in here I want to just say website, and I can say geekscoders.com. So I want to send this information or this data from the app.js to my class component, that is hello class.js. Now if you remember, in the functional component we have added this props as an argument or as a parameter in our function, but in hello class we don't need to do this because it is inside the class component, and you can access to the props using this.props. Now what I mean in here, I can just add a text in here like this, and I want to access, so I can just say this.props.website like this. Okay, so now so you can see this.props.website, and the website is this is the value that we have in here. Now if you see, you can see that we have the website in here, and let me just add this text, the style for this, and you will see style and styles.text style. So this is the style that we have already created, and now if you see, we have our data in here. Now there's a problem with the props. You cannot change the value of the props. For example, if in here, if you say this dot props dot website, and if you add, for example, abc.com, we cannot we have an error, so let me just bring this in here. Okay, so we cannot do this because you cannot change the value of the props, and it's not possible to change the value of the props. Now if you see in here, you can see that we are not receiving any result, and because it will throw an error in here because we cannot change the value. In this part, we are going to learn about states. So we have learned about the props, that how you can use props in class components and also functional components. But there is a problem that we cannot change the value of the props. Now, if you see React Native documentation, while you can think of props as arguments you use to configure how components render, state is like component's personal data storage. It means that you can use a state within the component, and the component owns the state. So state is useful for handling data that changes over the time. It means that we can change the state, and or that comes from user interaction. State gives your components memory. Now before this, there was a problem that you cannot use states in functional components, but now you can, after introducing hooks, you can use states and also lifecycle methods inside a functional component. For example, in a class component, when you want to fetch some data, you can use component that mount. But now in function component, using hooks, we can do this using use effect hook. Now you can see that they have an example in here for the functional component and also class component. Now let's create our example. In the components, I'm going to create a new file, and I want to just call it state class like this. Now before this, there is an extension that you can install. So it's E7 React Redux GraphQL React Native, and you can easily create a class and functional component using this extension. So let me just rename this, and I have it's state class.js. Okay. Now in here you can use our FCE for functional component and RCE for the class component. So in here we are going to use class component. Now in this section, what I want to do is to import I want text, and also I want so for right now, let me just use text from React Native like this. Okay, now after this, also let me just import view in here. So view, let me change this to view like this. Okay, now in here we can create our state in a class component. So we can just say state and sorry, state. Now I want to just give name, and let me just give a name in here. So now we have our state in here, and now let me just print this. So I can just say text, and now I can access to this using this. So this dot state dot name. Okay, so now let me just add this in my app.js. I want to remove this component. First I need to import this. So import state class from components, and it is state class, and in here I can just add a state class like this. Okay, so we have created our class, we have created our state in here, and after that we have added that to the app.js. Now if you see, you can see that we have the name in here. Now let me just add a line style for this. So I can just say text style. I can just add a font size, and also a font size of 20, and also a padding of 30. Font size and also padding. Okay, now you can see that this is the name. Now we want to change, for example, I want to create a button, and after clicking of the button I want to change this data, this value. So for this we need to create a button in here. We can import the button in this section from React Native, and now let's create our button in here. So I can just say button, and so button, and you can add the title. So the button title is click me, and now you can see that we have a click me button here. So I can just click on this. Now we want to add on press for this, so we can just use on press, and in the on press it's an arrow function, and you can use set a state for changing the state. So we can just use this dot set state, and in here we want to change the name. For example, you can just say text changed like this. Okay, so now if we see in here, we have our data in here, and if I click on this click me, you can see that the text is changed in here. So like this you can work with the states in a class component. In this part we're going to learn that how you can use states inside a functional component. Now we have learned that how you can use states inside a class component. Now if you see the documentation of React Native, you can add a state to a components by calling React's useState hooks. Now for this we need to use hooks, and that is useState hooks. Now a hook is a kind of function that lets you hook into React features. For example, useState is a hook that lets you to add a state to a function components, and there are different hooks. For example, I have already said that if you want to fetch some data in a class component, we can use component.mount, and in the functional component we can use useEffect hooks. Now let's just create our example. So I want to create a new component in here, and I call it for example hooks, or we can just say use state hooks.js. So we have a misspelling in here, or there's no problem, use state, we can just leave it like this. Okay, now in here we can just use rfce for creating a functional component. And after that we need to import useState hooks, so we can just say useState, and now this is our hooks. Okay, so also I need to import view and text from React Native, like this. Now let me change the div to view and make it view, like this. So now we have imported our useState hooks in here. Now after that we need to create this hooks, and it's important that you need to create your hooks inside the functional component, and we can just say const and useState. And after that you need to give an initial value for this. Right now, for example, I want to just give let me just give it like this, geekscolors.com. okay, so this is the initial value for the useState. Now you need to give two in here you need to give two value. Now the first one is the variable that holds this state, and the second one is function or method for changing of this state. So for example, we can just say name and set name. This will hold our state, and this will be used for changing of the state. Now in here, if I say so for example text and name, you will see that I should receive this. Okay, we need to add this in our app.js, so we can just remove this, and we need to just copy this, and it is useState hooks, and we can add the useState hook in here. So useState hooks. So now we can see that we have our name in here. Let's just add some style for this, and so in here I can just add an inline style, so style, and I can just say font size, we can give it 30. We can add a padding of 30. So now we can see that this is our text in here. Now we need to create a button, and I can just add a button in here. So we can create our button. So button, the text is, for example, click me. So text from the title, props of button. Oh, sorry, it's not text, that it should be title. And okay, now you can see we have a click me button here. So I want, when I click on this, I want to change this text. I want to change the state of this text. Now for that you can use set name, and let's just add on press, and it is an arrow function, and we can just say set name. Let me just say this is changed. Now you can see that how easily we have used this. And now let's just click on this, and I should see this text in here. Now you can see that this is changed. Now like this you can use useState hooks in React Native. In this part we're going to learn that how you can create cards in React Native. So for creating of the cards we are going to use a third-party library that's called React Native Paper. So now if you see, it's a cross-platform material design for React Native, and Paper is a collection of customizable and production-ready components for React Native following Google's material design guidelines. Now you can see that there are different components that you can use from React Native Paper. and we're going to use cart from the React Native paper. Now the first thing is that you need to install this, and you can, if you're using Yarn, you can just use this command, or if you're using npm, you can use this command for the installation. Now I've already created my createCart.js component, and it should be a functional component, so I can just use RFC for creating a functional component. Now we need some imports from React Native paper. So we want to import some, for example, we need to import a button and also cart, and I think we need title and also paragraph, like this. Okay, so okay, now we want to import these from React Native paper. Now after importing this, also we need to import view and also text from React Native. So from React Native, let's change this to view, and we can just make it view. Let's for right now create a simple text in here, and we want to say hello world, and we need to just first we need to import this. You can just you can use create cart, and it will be imported automatically. So if you see at the top, we have create cart in here, and it is imported. So right now we have just a simple hello world text in here, and if you see, we have hello world. Now we need to create our cart, so I'm going to remove this text from here. The first thing is that we are going to create a cart, and after creating of the cart, we need to give the cart content. So we can use cart.content. Okay, now for the content, we are going to create a title, so we can just say title, and the title is, for example, how to make a cake. Okay, so also we can give a paragraph, so let me just say paragraph, and you can add a paragraph, so we can say you will learn that how to make a cake. So now we have created our cart. First we have imported, after that we need to give cart.content, and in the content we can give the title and also a paragraph for the cart. Now if you see, we have just a simple cart in here. Let's add some style for this. We can just say style, and in the style we can add a padding of 20, and also we can just add a margin of 10, and also you can add a background color, and we want to just use this color. So now we can see that this is our cart. After this, we want to add an image for the cart. I've already created an image folder, and I have added an image in here at name of cake.jpg. So now we can create our cart, so we can just say cart.cover, like this, and we need to add the source for this. So like this, and we are going to use require, and it is in our image folder, so we can say dot, and in the image it is cake.jpg. so cart.cover source. Oh yeah, now you can see that we have a nice cake in here with the title and the paragraph. Also you can add actions for the cart, so we can just say cart.actions, and we can use button, so we have imported the button in here. Yeah, and so the first one is, for example, cancel, we can create another button, and this is OK. So you can add actions to the cart. So for example, we can use two buttons like cancel and also OK for this. Now if you see, we have two buttons, cancel and also OK. Let me just copy this, and we want to add two carts in here. So this is my first cart and this is the second cart. You can see I have two cards, but right now you can see that it's not scrollable, and we want to add the scrolling functionality for this. Now for that, we are going to use the scroll view from React Native. So we can add a scroll view, and now we can just wrap our this two cards with the scroll view, and we can just say scroll view, and it will add the functionality of the scrolling to our this application. So now if you see, we can scroll this two cards like this. So like this you can work with the cards in React Native. Okay guys, now in this part we're going to talk about flex layout in React Native. So now if you see the documentation of React Native, you can see that a component can specify the layout of its children using the flexbox algorithm, and flexbox is designed to provide a consistent layout on different screen sizes. And there are different concepts that you can use in flexbox, like flex direction, align items, so and also justify content. Now they have an example in here, so you can see in this image, in the following example, the red, yellow and green views are all children in the container view that has flex 1. Now the red view uses flex 1, and the yellow uses flex 2, and the green view uses flex 3. Now you can see that we have flex 1, flex 2 and flex 3. Now it means that 1 plus 2 is 3 and 3 plus 3 is 6, which means that the red view will get this space, and the yellow will get this space, 2 by 6, and the green will take 3 by 6. And like this you can use flexbox. Now let's create our example. I have already created a functional component in here, and so I have, for right now I have just a simple text in here, and let me just change this text to a view, and we can just say view and also view. Now after doing this, we need to give a style for this, so I'm going to use inline style, so view style, and I can just give a height in here, so for example 300, and I can give a padding of 20. Now let's create another view in here like this, and we want to give another style for this. So for this we want to use flex 1, and we can give a background color, so I can give it red, and also just a background color, flex background color. Let's create another view, so I can give a inline style. For this we can give flex 2 and background color, and I can give it green. So I need another view, and I can just say view, and for this I can give a style. So now in the style we can give flex 3, and the background color I can give it yellow. So now this is my flex layout. Now I need to import this in my app.js. Let me just copy this, and I can just say flex layout, and I can import this. Now I can change this to flex layout. Okay, so you can see that we have our view container in here. So it has height 300, and also we have added a padding. We have 3 views that has different flexes: flex 1, flex 2, and flex 3. So now if you see in here, you can see that this is flex 1, this is flex 2, and this is our flex 3, and the whole container is the height is 300. Now if I make this flex 1, let me just check that it is working or not. So now I think I'm not seeing the flex in here. Let me just change back this to let me just give height 300. Okay, now you can see that this is. Now there was a concept of if you see in here, so you can use flex direction. By default, if you see our flexes column wise. Now you can change this using the flex direction, and you can make it for example row wise. So I can just say flex direction, and I can use row. Okay, now you can see that we have a row wise in here. So like this you can work with the flex layout in React Native. In this part we're going to talk about the FlatList. Now if you see documentation of React Native, it's a performant interface for rendering basic FlatList, supporting the most handy features. So it's a fully cross-platform, optional horizontal mode, and configurable viewability, header support, footer support, separator support, and the most important is that it has pull to refresh, scroll loading, and different options. Now let's create our flat list. I have already created my component, and it's a functional component. Now after doing this, first I need to create some data in here. Let me just say const my data, and it is an array object, so id1. So for id1 for id1, so the id is 1. After that I have title, and I can just say first title. I have this description, so description, first description. So now we can just create some more data. Let me just copy this, and I can just say id2, this is second title, second description. Let me just copy once more, and this is third title and third description. id4, fourth title and fourth description. So these are some data, some predefined data that I will use for the flat list. Now the first thing is that we need to import the flat list from React Native. So we can just say import flat list from React Native. Also I'm going to import card from React Native paper. So I've already installed React Native paper. You can just watch the previous video for this. Now, and here we are going to create our flat list. So instead of div, I'm going to just say flat list, and I can just close this flat list. And here we need to add the data. Let me just remove this. It's self-close like this. Okay. So now we need to add our data. So our data is my data that we have already created in here. and after that we need to add the render item. So I can just say render item, and for the render item I can just say, so for right now let me just say my data, and I can just console.log my data. Okay, so now let's just first let me open the terminal in here, so like this. Okay, now let me just add this in my app.js. So I can just copy this and I can just say React flat. Now instead of flexbox we can add this in here. So it's just a simple flat list, and now let's just so cannot connect to Metro Bundler. We need to restart this. So let me just restart this. Alright guys, now even though we have received an error, it's a warning. It's because we need to add a key extractor, so don't worry about that. Now you can see that in here we are receiving our data, and the most important point is that we are interested in item, because item has our description, ID and title. Okay, so now in here, instead of for example rendering my data, we can just say item, and after that we need to create a method, and let me just do that at the top in here. So I can just say const render data, and we can pass item in here, and after this we are going to create a cart, and in the cart we need to add a style. So let me just okay, style, we want to use an inline style. We can just give a padding of 10, we can give a margin of 10, also we can give a background color. So background color, and I want it should be, I can just give it a color like this. Okay, so after this now we can create text in here. So text, and we need to add our item dot title, and let's create another text, and this should be for the description. Okay, so now in here, instead of console.log, we want to just return our this render. So let me just say return render data, and we can pass item in here. Okay, so also in here we need to return this. I forgot to do this, so I can just say return like this. Okay, so now let's just okay, now we have our React flat, and let's check that we have our data in here. Okay, now also we need to add a key extractor in here, but okay, now you can see that I have my card, but I don't have my data, because it's an object and we need to add this like this. And also we need to add a key extractor in here. So I can just say key extractor, and in the key extractor I can just say item, and because the ID is right now integer, so we need to just convert that. So we're going to use backticks, and I can just say item.id. Okay, like this. Okay, so now you can see that we are receiving our data in here. So first, second, and we can just add some style for this inline style, and I can just give for this font size, for example, font size 25, and I need to just add this style for my this second text, and I want to make it 20. So now if you see, so you can see that these are bigger. Now let's just add some more data in here, because I have already said that it's scrollable, so we can just add some more data in here, and we want to see the scrolling functionality of the flat list. So let me just add some more data like this, and so now let's check that there is scroll. We can scroll this or not. So you can see that we can scroll this like this. So now like this you can use FlatList and React. In this part we're going to learn that how we can create floating action button in React Native. So now for this make sure that you've already installed React Native Paper, because we are going to use from the third-party library that's React Native Paper. Now the first thing is that we need to import our FAB from React Native Paper. So from React Native Paper, and after this, now in here we can create our FAB. So the first thing is that we can give a style for this. So I can just use style, and I can just say styles.fab. So for right now I haven't created this style, but I will create this, and I want to make the small to false, and I want to, it should be a bigger action button or floating button, and I can add an icon, and it should be a plus icon. Also you can add an on press, so we can just say console dot log, for example, pressed. So now after creating of this, now let's create our style, because we have added a style in here. So now first we need to import style sheet from React Native. So import style sheet from React Native like this. And now we are going to create our style sheet in here. I'm going to just call it const styles and style sheet dot create. Now the name of my style for the floating action button is FAB, so I can just do it like this. We can give a position, and I want it should be absolute, and after that I want to give a margin, so the margin should be 16, and right, it should be in the right, bottom to 0. And also I can add a flex, so I want to just use flex 1 in here. So now after creating of this, now we need to add this in our app.js file. So let's just copy this, and we want to just use floating. We can just say floating button, and we can add it like this. Okay, so I've already talked about the React Native Paper in the cart section. So, and after that you can just create your FAB in here. You can give style, and I want it should be a bigger floating button, and the icon should be plus, and also you can add an on press. So for right now it's just console.log pressed. So now if you see, we are not okay. Let me just remove this view. I think it should be like this. Now you can see that I have a floating action button in here, and we can press this. So also you can add a background color. Let me just add it in here. So background color, and I can just give it, for example, green. Okay, now you can see that the floating action button color is changed. So like this you can create floating action button in React Native using React Native Paper. Alright guys, now in this part we're going to learn that how you can use effect hooks in React Native. So before this we have learned that how you can use useState hooks. Now if you want to do some side effects, then you can use effect hooks. For example, if you want to fetch some data from a backend API, then you can do that in the effect hooks. If you're familiar with the React class components, in the class component, for example, we can do that in component mount, and you can do the same functionality in the functional component using effect hooks. So first I want to do that in a class component, and after that I will show you in a functional component. So for this we are going to use Axios. So I have already installed Axios. If you haven't installed, you can just use npm install Axios. Now after doing this, we need to import Axios, so I can just say import Axios from Axios. After importing Axios, now I'm going to just create a constructor, so I can just use rconst, and in here I want to create an empty array, so I can just say posts. Okay, now after doing this, now we can use component mount, so I can just say component mount, and now in here I can fetch my data. I'm going to use JSON placeholder, so you can see that we have ID, title and body. So I'm going to just copy this URL, and after that I can just say axios.get, and I can paste this in here. So now it will return a promise, so we can just say .then, and in here we can receive response, and in the response we want to set our state, so we can just say this.setState, and after that we can just say posts, and it is response.data. So if there was an error, we can just get that in the catch block, so we can just say error, and I can say console.log the error. So now after doing this, we need to create a render data function. So first I'm going to import cart from React Native paper, and also we need to import FlatList because we want to show that in the FlatList. Also we need to import text from React Native. Now in here I can just say render data, and we need to pass an item as a parameter, and in here we can return something, so we can just say return. So we can create a cart, so cart, and we can add some inline style for this. So for example, I can just say padding 30, I can give a margin of 10, I can give background color, so background color, and I can just use FDF. So this is my cart. Now in the cart I want to show, if you see here we have title and body. We want to show the title and also body. Okay, now in here we can just say item.title, and let me just copy this, and we want item.body. it was so item.title and item.body. So after this, now we need to create a flat list because we want to render our data in a flat list. So let me just remove this, and in here I can create a flat list. So flat list. So the first one is the data. So the data is this, dot state dot posts. And after that we need to add a render item, and for the render item, so it is an arrow function, and in here we can just give item, and in here we want to return our render data, so render data, and we can pass item in here. Also we need to add a key extractor, so key extractor, and we can just say item, because the ID is integer, so we can just use backticks to convert that to string, so we can just say item.id. So in here we have fetched our data using Axios, and after that in here we want to show the data using cart, and we want to show all the data in a flat list. Now let's just save our data, and so let me just check this. So now you can see that we are receiving the data in here, so you can see that these are the data. Now let's just add and here I need to add a font size, so padding 30. Okay, background color, so this is my background color, and I can just add a font size, so inline style, so font size, and I want it should be 30, and we can add to item.body, so style, font size, and I want it should be 20. So now let's check. Okay, now we can see that we have a bigger title and bigger body. So now let's just do the same functionality using useEffect hooks. So this was a class component, and now we are going to create a new component, and I'm going to just say, for example, effect hooks .js. Now this should be a functional component, and we can just use our FCE for creating of the functional component. So the first thing is that we want to import useState hooks and also useEffect. So useEffect. Now also we are going to import, so import, we want to import view, text, and also FlatList from React Native, and also we are going to import cart from React Native paper. So after doing this, now let me just change this to view for right now, like this. Okay, now we are going to create, so I can just say const posts, so posts, and set posts, use state, and by default it is an empty array. Okay, now we can just use useEffect hook, so we can just say useEffect, and now we need to give an arrow function in here, like this, and after that we need to add an empty array in here. Because we want to fetch our data just once, then for that we need to add this in here. If you don't do this, it will render again and again. So now in here we can use our Axios, so I can just say import Axios from Axios, and let me just copy this code. I think I can just grab all of these code and paste it in here. So we can just get our data, and after that we are receiving our response. And in here now in this section we need to bring change. So we can just use set posts and resp.data. Okay, now we can access to the fetched data in our this posts in here. After doing this, now we need to create a const render data, and we can pass item in here. We are going to create a cart like this, and we can just say text. In the text we can say posts dot as we have already done, we have title and we have body, so we can just say posts dot title and posts dot body. So posts dot body. Okay, now let's just copy some codes from our previews. So in here we need to add our this line style in our cart. So I'm going to just copy this and bring this in my cart. So because I don't want to write it again, so cart style, we have padding, margin and background color, and also we need to just add these two styles for the text. So let me just add this in here, and we have another style. So this is my another style, and I can just add this for the body, so like this. Okay, now we can create our flat list in here, so because for rendering of the data, and let me change this to flat list. And the first one is the data. You need to provide the data. So for the data we are going to use our posts, and after that we can just use render item. And let me just grab some codes from here. We have render item, and let me just copy this. So render item, and in here we don't need this, and we can just say return render data item, because if you're in the class component you need to use this, but we are in functional component and we cannot use this in here. So also we need to add this key extractor, and we can just add it in here like this. Okay, now we need to import this in here, so I can just copy this and I can just paste it in here. So it is effect hooks, and I can just add this in here, and instead of this we can now add our effect hooks in this section. So in here we are not seeing the data because I have forgot to return my card. So in here we can just say return, so like this, and we can add our card in here. And now let's just save this, and we should see the data in here. Now it's refreshing, and we should see the fetched data in here. So let me just wait for this. Oh, sorry, I have another error, because in here I have added posts. It's not posts, it is item. So sorry for this. And now we can just see the data. Yeah, now you can see that we have the data in here. So we have our title and we have our description. So like this you can use effect hooks in React Native. Alright guys, now in the previous video we have learned that how you can fetch some data in React Native, and we have learned that how you can do that in a class component, and also how you can do that using use effects in functional component. Now in this video we're going to talk about pull to refresh functionality. As I've already said that if you're using FlatList, so if you see in here, we are using FlatList. Now if you're using FlatList, you can add pull to refresh functionality. So now let's just create this. So first I want to create a const, and I'm going to just say loading and also set loading, and by default I want to make it true. And after doing this, now I want to create another method in here, and I'm going to just call it render data. So this is my function, and after that I'm going to just grab this code, so this fetching the data, and I want to bring this in here. And after doing this, now we can call our this render data function in here like this. So after doing this, now in the flat list we can add, so first we can add on refresh. So in the on refresh we are going to just give our render data in here, so render data, so it's an arrow function. And after that, we have another one that's called refreshing, and in the refreshing we need to add our loading. And also in here, when you have fetched the data, we are going to just make the set loading, we are going to just make the set loading to false. So now let's just check this, and so we have an error in here, and so render data has already been declared. Sorry for this. Let me just say, for example, render fetch data, and let me just bring this in here, and after that let me just add it in here. Now let's check this. So invalid, and we have another error. Let me just check this in here. Sorry guys, I have made a mistake. I forgot to add useState in here. So because it's our state, we have loading and set loading. And now let's check this. So you can see that we have pull to refresh in here, and so there's no problem. And you can see that we have refreshing functionality in here. So you can see that we can do it like this. So if I save this, and if I do it again, you can see that we have a symbol like this. So like this you can work with the pull to refresh in React Native. In this part I want to show you that how you can use images in React Native in your React Native application. So now let's just create I'm going to just create a new component, and I'm going to just call it React image.js. So we're going to use RFC. So the first thing is that we need to import image, so it's a built-in component. So we can just say import image, and also we're going to import a view from React Native. So after importing this, now we can just create our, so first I'm going to just make this view, and this is view. Now in the view I want to create my image, so I can just say image, and after that you need to specify the source of the image. Okay, now you can use image from the internet, online image, or you can add images anywhere, for example in your project. So I've already have image, so in my img folder, so I have a cake.jpg, so I want to add this in here. Now for the source, we can just say require, and I can just say require, and after that we can just say dot dot dot, and we can go to the img, and after that the name of the image is cake dot it is, I think, yeah, it's jpg, it's a jpg image. Okay, so now let's just add our this react image to our app.js. so let me just add this in here. So let me just copy this, and I don't need these components, I think, and in here we can just say, sorry, let me just copy react image, and I can add this in here. So now let me just save this, and let's check that we have the image or not. Yeah, now you can see that we have the image, but the image is big. Now we want to resize this image. So what I want to do is to in here I need to add inline style, so I can just say style. So the first style, I want to add a width, and for example for the width I can give it for example 200, and I can add a height, so the height also 200. So now if I see, you can see that we have 200 by 200 image. And also we can add a style to the view, so I can just say style, and I can just say align items, and I want to make it to center, and also I can add a padding of 40. So now you can see that we have our image in here. Also you can make it, for example, you can make the width to 100%. Now you can see that the width is 100%. So this was adding image in React Native. Now if you want to add an image background, for that also you can use another built-in component that's called image background. So in here instead of image this time, I'm going to import image background, and in here we can add our image background, and we don't need these styles this time. So let me just remove the view from here, and so the width is 100%, and also we need to change the height. Let me just make it 100%. And now you can see that we have an image background in here. So like this you can work with the images in React Native. Alright guys, now in this part we're going to learn that how you can use text input in React Native. So text input is also another type of built-in component in React Native. So the first thing is that I need to import, so I can just say import view and also text input. So text input, we need also text. So these three components from React Native, and after doing this we need to create so we need to just import useState hooks. So we can just say useState like this, and now we can create const. So I can just say const name and set name useState, and in here it should be an empty string, and we want to create another one. This is for example for the email, so email and set email, and I can just say useState, and this should be an empty string. So after this, in here I want to just create a view, and so view. And here we are going to create our text input. So we want to create two text input, so I can just say text input, and so I can add a placeholder. So a placeholder, for example, I can just say please enter first name. Also I can add a value. I need to add a value, so the value is a name. The value is name, and after that we need to add an unchanged text. So for right now, let me just show you. Now let me also add a style, because let me just say style, add a style to the view. So the flex, make the flex 1, and we can give a padding of 50. Now let me just add this in my in here. So let me just copy this, and first I need to import React input, and now I can add this in here in my app.js. So now if you see, now you can see that we have a text input, but we cannot write. You can see that I cannot write. So it is because we need to add an unchanged text in here. So I can just say on change text, and so in here it is an row function, and the parameter is text, and I can just say set name to text. Now if you see, now you can see that we can write in here. Let's just create another text input. So I can just say text input, and I need to add a placeholder. So please enter for example email, and let me just copy these two value. So the value should be email, so this is the state that we have already created, and I can just give it email, and in the unchanged text we can just say set email, like this. So now after doing this, we want to create two text. So if you see, now we have two text input in here, like this, and let's create a text in here. So not text input, it should be text, and I can just say name, and we need to give a style in here. So style, padding 30, and also I can just say font size to 20, and we can add a color of red, so make it like this. Okay, now let me just copy this, because I want to add one more text in here. So let me copy this and paste it in this section, and this time we want to print the email, and it should be green. Okay, now you can see that we have now we can add in here, for example, the name, and we can add the email address. So like this you can work with the text input in React Native. In this part we're going to learn that how you can create picker in React Native. So using React Picker, a user can choose from a set of options. Now if you're using Expo CLI, then you need to use like this, Expo install at React Native Picker. And if you're using React Native CLI, then you can just use npm instead of Expo. So because I'm using Expo, so I want to just use this for the installation. First we need to install this, and let me just copy this, and I can paste this in here, and now I'm waiting for the installation of this. Alright guys, now the installation has been completed. So I've already created a component of React Picker.js. So even though you can use the picker from the React Native, but that's deprecated. So if I say import picker from React Native, so you can see it's imported, but you can see that in here it's telling that picker has been extracted from React Native core, and you need to install that. So now we have installed this. Now we are going to import that. So I can just say import picker from React Native picker, and after that we need to import. So I can just say import text and also view from React Native, and also we are going to import useState hooks. So we can just say useState. So now I'm going to create const name, and we can just say set name useState, and we can change this to view and view. So now let's just create our so let me first add some style for the view, and I can just give a padding of 50. Now we can create our picker in here. So we can say picker, and after this in here what we want to do is to first add a selected value. So we can just select it, we can just say selected value, and this should be name. So let me just make this names and set names like this. Okay, names. And after that we can give an on value change, and this is an arrow function like this, and we need to add two parameters. So the first one is the item value, and the second one is the item index like this. Okay, and now we can just set the names in here. So we can just say set names, and we need to add the item value like this. Okay, so after that now we need to add our items to the picker. So we can just say picker dot item, so item, and we need to give a label for this. For example, we need to add some names, and we can add a value. So you can just add, let me just add like this value. Now let me just copy this because we want some more of this, and I can just add John and John. So we can just say for example geeks coders, and let me just copy this in here. We want one more, and I can just say for example Bob and Bob. So after doing this let me also create a text, because when I select something from the picker, some names, I want to show that in a text. So for this I can just use text, and I can just say names like this. So now let's just add this in the app.js, and I can just import this like this, and I can add it in here. So now let's check. Okay, now you can see this is our picker, and you can see that now I can choose from here. So if I choose, you can see that we have the text in here, and if I choose another one, you can see I have the text in here. So like this you can work with the picker in React Native. In this part we're going to learn about WebView in React Native. So the WebView component renders HTML content in a native WebView component. Now this will include CSS, JavaScript, and anything else you can typically display in a browser. So the first thing is that you need to install React Native WebView. So if you're using Expo, you can just use Expo, install React Native WebView, and if you're using npm, you can just change this to npm, and also you can just check the additional instruction for if you're using React Native CLI. So because we're using Expo CLI, so I've already installed, you can just use Expo and install React Native WebView. So after this, I have already created a component. Now in here, the first thing is that we need to import the WebView. So we can just say import, and I can just say WebView from React Native WebView. So after this, let me just remove this text from here, and in here I can just say WebView, and now we need to add the source. So I can just say source, and in the source you need to add the website URL. So let me just copy this and add this in here, so like this. And now let's check, so I've already added this in my app.js, and now we are going to just check that we have, so source is not an object. If so we have an error in here, WebView source, oh sorry, we need to just make it like this. And so WebView source, and in here I need to add URI. Okay, now it's correct, and we are going to check this. Okay, now you can see that this is my website, and you can see that this is in a WebView. So if you're interested in learning programming videos and learning programming, you can just check my geekscoders.com, and you can just enroll free courses, and there are different courses that you can join now, including this React Native course, and we have different courses, OpenCV, and you can just join it. It's a free course. So like this, you can use WebView in React Native. In this part, we're going to learn about useReducer hooks. So we have already learned about useState and also useEffect hooks. Now useReducer is an alternative to useState. Now accepts a reducer of type state action and new state, and returns the current state paired with a dispatch method. Now if you're familiar with the Redux, now you will already know about this, how this works. And you can see that it's telling that useReducer is usually preferable to useState when you have a complex state logic that involves multiple sub-values, or when the next state depends on the previous one. And on that time, it's useful that you use useReducer hooks. Now you can see the syntax. We have state with the dispatch method, and after that we have reducer, useReducer. We need to give a reducer function and also the initial state for the useReducer. Now let's create our practical example. I have already created my component, and now what I want to do is to in here I'm going to create my, first I need to import useReducer, so I can just say useReducer, and now I can just say useReducer, and in here as we have already said, in here you need to give the reducer function, so I can just say so reducer, and after that you need to give the initial state. So and we can just give it initial state. Okay, so now let's create our this reducer function and also initial state at the top. So in here the first thing is that I'm going to create my initial state, so I can just say const initial state, and it is an object count, and I'm going to just make it 0. And after that we are going to create our reducer function, so const reducer, and in here we need to give the state and also the action like this. Okay, now based on this action we want to do perform something. Okay, now in here we can if you see so we have now you can see that we need to give state action and it will return new state. And now in this section we can just create a switch case, and I can just say action dot type. So if the case is increment, so I can just say increment. What I want to do is to just say return, and I want to just change the count value to state dot count plus 1. And if the case is so let me just give, if the case is decrement, in here we can just say return, and I can just say count state dot count minus 1. Okay, so now this is our initial state, and after that we have created our reducer function. Now let's just come down. Now in here if you see we have state and dispatch, and it's telling that it returns the current state, so the current state paired with a dispatch method, So now let's just create this, so we can just say const we have the new state and also the dispatch method like this. Okay, now after this in here let me just create a view, and I want to just remove this. I'm going to create a view, and I need to import this view at the top, and also I will need button. Let me just add a button from React Native. Okay, so now in the view first I need to give a style, so a style, and I can just say flex direction, and I want to make it a row. Now I can create 2 buttons, and I can just say button title. So the title is for example I can say increment, and in the on press we want to dispatch some action, so I can just say dispatch, and we need to give the type, and the type is increment that we have already given in here, so this is the type increment. Now let me just add this in here like this, and we need to just copy this because we want to one more button, and tap tap tap. So in here the dispatch is decrement, so I can just copy this and paste this in here. So 2 times I have added. Okay, so after doing this we are going to create text in here, so I can just say text like this, and so let me just give a style for this style, and inline style. We can give a font size. Now the font size is 25, and we can give a padding of 20, and in here we can just say count, and we can just say state dot count. So now let's just save this, and we want to check this. We have 2 buttons in here. The style is not looking good, so we have a flex direction, and we also we want to wrap this in another view. Let me just wrap this and add this in here, and for this view we can add a style of for example a padding of 40, and also let me just bring this text outside the first view like this. Okay, now you can see that the initial value is 0 because in here we have the initial state to 0. Now if I click on the increment, so you can see 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and we haven't changed this to this should be decrement. So we can increment and we can decrement. So like this you can work with the useReducer hooks in React Native. In this part we're going to learn about async storage. So now async storage is an unencrypted asynchronous persistent key value storage system that is global to the app. Now the first thing is that you need to install this. If you're using Expo CLI, then you can use Expo install at React Native async storage. Now if you're using React Native CLI, then you can just follow this instruction. So for example, you can, if you're using npm, you can just use npm install, or if you're using yarn, you can use this, and for the Expo you can use this. So now I have already installed this, and so this is my file, and also I have some codes in here that I have already created. So this is my React async.js component. And now let me just talk about this code. Okay, now you can see that at the top I have my React, and also I have imported useState. After that I have text view, text input, and also button from React Native. And in here I have created a state using useState, so it's a username and set username. After that I have a view, I have a style of flex. The flex is 1, align items to the center, padding top 50. And I have two text. So the first one is for printing of my username, and the second one is just, it's a label text, and I'm going to just say write your username in here. After that I have text input, and for writing of the username, and you can see I have an inline style. So the border width is 2, align self stretch, and we have a height of 60, margin 20, and padding horizontal to 10. And we have a placeholder of please enter username. And in the onChange text, we want to just set our username to the text that we are going to receive from the user. So after that we have another view, and this is just for the two buttons. So the first button is for saving of the data to the sync storage, and the second button is from for the removing of the data from the sync storage. And the flex direction is row, because by default we have a column, and we need to just change that to row. Now if you see, we have just a simple so this is right username. So if I write something in here, you can see that I am receiving this text in here. Now this is the text that I have given in here. So this is the username, and we have write your username. So this is this text label, and we have an input, text input. This is the text input, and in the onChange text we are going to just set the username. And after that we have two buttons in here. So the first one is save username, and you can see save username and also remove username. Now let's create so first we need to after installation we need to import async storage. So we can just say import async storage from React. So from and we can just say React Native async storage. Now after doing this, now let's create our async function for storing the data, and I'm going to just say store data, and it should be we need to make this async. And now in here we can create a try catch block. So I can just say try, and I can just use await async storage dot set item. Now in here the first one is you need to give the key. So the key is, for example, my username, and after that you need to give the value. So the value is the username, so we want to save the username in the async storage. And if there was an error, we can just say catch, and you can just save the error in here like this. Okay, so we can just say E. So this was for the saving the data. And also we need to get the data, and now for that we need to create another one. So I can just say const get data, and I can just say async so we can just create a try, and in here so we need to create a const value, and we can just say await dot async storage dot get item. So this time, because we want to get the item, we need to use get item. And here you need to give the key, so it's my username that we have already given, and I can add this in here. And we want to check that if the value is not null, so if the value is not null, we want to just set the username to the value like this. Okay, and if there was an error, we can just catch that. So we can just say catch and E, and we can just say error. So now after in here we have it's await async storage dot get item, and if we need to add the catch in here. So okay, so now we have the get the data and we have the store data. Also we need to use effect hooks because we want to just show the value in every render. So I can just import use effect, and after that I can just say use effect, and in here we can call the get data, and also we need to add an empty array in here like this. Now let's just we have our two buttons in here. Also we need to add another one for the removing. So let me just also create that in here. So we have const remove value. So for example, we want to remove data from the sync storage, so we need to use this. And in here we can just say try await sync storage, and for that we can just use remove item. So we have get item, so you can see that we have set item, we have get item, and we have a remove item. And in here you need to add the key that you have. So it's my username. So let me just copy this and bring this in here, and I can just add a catch. So if there was an error, I can just we can just print the error, and finally we need to just set the username to empty, make the username to empty. So now after that, now we have our buttons in here. So in here we need to add on press. So it is an arrow function, and in here we can just say save what was store data. So let me just add store data, and the another one is for the remove value, and let me just, so on press we can just say remove value. So now this is our, so now I've already added data in here, so let me just remove this. Now I'm going to add another data in here, my name, and I can just say save username. Okay, so now the username is saved. If I refresh this, you can see that we have the username in here, and if I, for example, if I close all the app, and for example I want to run my application again, and so let me just wait for this. So you'll see that I have the username, so now let me, okay, now you can see that I have the username in here. Now if I remove the username, and now the username is removed, and if I, for example, run my app again, let me just run this again, you will see that I don't have the username in here. So now let me just wait for this. Okay, now you can see that I don't have the username in here. So like this you can work with the sync storage in React. In this part we're going to learn about React Native ViewPager. So now it's a simple component that allows the user to swipe between multiple pieces of content or multiple pages. So now the first thing is that you need to install this. You can see that this is the documentation, and you can see that the React Native Community ViewPager library has been changed to React Native Pager View. So if you're using Yarn, you can just use this comment, or if you're using npm, you can just use npm install React Native Pager View. So I've already installed it, and now I need to. So I have created a React Pager.js component. And this is my app.js. I have added this in here. Now in here I need to create this. First of all, we need to import this, so we can just say import something from React Native Pager View. And after doing this, also we need to import view style sheet, and also I think we don't need text, we need image. So now let me just remove this view from here, and in here I can create a pager view. So I can just say pager view, and after doing this we need to give a style for this. So for the style we are going to just use styles dot pager view. So we haven't created this style, but we will create this. So we need to make it like this. Okay, now after this we need to give the initial page. So we can just say initial page, and the initial page is the 0 page, like this. Okay, and also we need to give key for this, I think. So now we can just say view and key. We can give key, so view key 1, and in here so I want to add an image, so I can just say image. So first I need to give the source for this, so I can just say source, and for the source I've already added some images to my working directory. So in here if you see I have 3 images in here, and for the source we can just say require, and it is in .img, and this is the cake.jpg. So this is my first image, and also I need to give a style for this. I'm going to give an inline style, so the width is for example 100%, and also I can give a height, so the height should be 200, and we could give a margin top, so margin top 250. So this is my first image. Now I need to create 2 more. I'm going to just copy this and paste this in here, and the value key is 2. So this is the image. We don't need to change the width and height, margin top, and for the require we want to just make it to 2, another image. So now let me just copy this once more, because I want to add another image in here. So now the value key is 3, and this should be cake3.jpg. So now this is our view pager, and now let's check this that it's working or not. And so invalid expected for built-in to export your component from file. We have an error. I think I have forgot to add this style in here. Maybe I think this is the error, so I can just say const styles style sheet dot create, and now we can give our pager view in here, and we can give flex to 1. And now let's check that it is working or not. So we have another error, React pager. Alright guys, now we have 2 errors in here. We don't need to add this in here, so sorry for this. And also in here, its style is not style sheet, because we have created our styles in here, and we can just use this styles, and I have mistakenly added a style sheet in here. So now let's check this. Okay, now you can see that we have our images in here. Now I can swipe this like this, and you can see that it's working. And so like this you can work with the React pager view. Alright guys, now in this part we are going to learn about React navigation. So it's a routing and navigation system for your React Native apps. Now you can just click on the docs, and after that you will see this page, and in here we need to install this. So you can see that I'm using version 5 of React navigation. You can use version 4, but it's good to use the latest version of 5. Now first you need to install this. So if you're using npm, you can just use this command, and if you're using yarn, you can use it like this. So after installation of this, you need to install some dependencies. Now if you're using expo, you can just use this expo install, and you need to install all of them. You can just copy and install that. Or if you're using React Native CLI, then you can use this command and you can install all of them. So after installation of these, you need to just go to the create stack navigator. So you can just come down and the navigators, click on the create stack navigator, and you will see this page. You need to install this also. You can just use npm install at React navigation stack. So after installation, now I've already installed it. So these are my files. I have app.js, and after that I have home.js and also profile.js. So all of them are functional component. Now we want to do our navigation system in the app.js. So first we want to import, so I can just say import something from at React navigation native, and we want to import navigation container. So we can just say navigation container, and also we are going to import something from at React and its navigation stack, and from this we can just use create stack navigator. So create stack navigator. So after importing of this, let's create our stack. So I can just say const stack, and in here I can just so first let me just remove this. I don't need this, and also let me just remove this. So I can just say const stack, and in here I can say create stack navigator. And after doing this, now we need to bring some change to our this. And here I want to just remove this export default, and in here we can return our stack dot navigator. So now we can create stack dot screen, and we need to give the name. So for example, name, the first one is home, and we need to give the component. Now we need to import the component. So import home from components, so dot components, and this is home, and we want to do the same for the profile. Okay, now for the component we can give home. So this is our first one. Now let me just copy this and add this once more, and this is the profile, and this is profile. Okay, So after doing this, now we need to create an, so we can just say export default, and we want to wrap our app in the navigation container, so we can just say navigation container, and we can add our app in here like this. Okay, so now let's check that it's working or not. And first let me just run my I think I need to run my Metro bundler, so let me just close this. So we have an error in here because and here I need to return this, so I can just say return, and I want to return this. Okay, now after doing this, we want to open our home.js, and we need to create a button in here. So right now, if you see, you can see that we have our home in here, and this is our home screen. You can see that this is the title. So now we are going to just open our home.js, and in here we want to create a button. So I want, when we click on the button, we want to just navigate to another page. So you can see that we have, let me just give a style for this, and we can just say font size, and it should be 30, and we can give a padding of 50. So this is our home screen. Now let's create a button in here. So button, and I can give a title, so for example profile, and on press. So now we can use props, props.navigation to navigate to another screen. So for this you need to give props in here, so we can say props, and in the on press it is an arrow function. So props.navigation .navigate, so props.navigation.navigate, and we want to navigate to the profile. So from the home we want to navigate to the profile, so we need to give the name in here like this. Okay, so now let me just copy this text, and I want to add this in here, text style. So now let's just save this, and we want to check that it's working or not. So we have our home screen. Now if I click on the profile, you can see that I'm in the profile. Now I can go back, profile, like this. Also you can for example give some styling for your header, and you can see that we have home in here, and if I go to the profile, we have profile in here. Now let's just give some styles for this. Now I want to open my app.js, and in here I can create a const my styles, and we can give a title. For example, I'm going to just give home, and after that I can just give header, tint, color, and you can just give it whatever you want. So for example, I want it should be white, so it's the color of the text in our header. And after that we can just give header style, and for the header style you need to give a background color. For example, background color, and this should be, for example, green. So now we need to give another option in here, and for example I want to just change the home header. Now in this section I can just give it options, and in the options you can give them my styles like this. Okay, So now let me just refresh it again. There is no problem. Okay, now you can see that this is changed, and if I go to the profile, and you can see this is my profile, and you can see that the header is changed in here. Now you can see that this is changed. So like this you can work with the React native navigation.